Welcome to the Overthinker's Guide to Modern Marketing, or as we like to call it,
How to sell a sandwich without accidentally starting a cult.
Welcome back to the Overthinker's Guide to Modern Marketing, the podcast for people who've spent months perfecting a marketing campaign only to discover that Janet in accounts accidentally generated more positive publicity by simply being nice to a customer. I'm your host, John Makin, a man who has become convinced that the difference between a good business and a great one is often a 5-minute conversation, a decent cup of coffee, and somebody answering the telephone before your will to live expires. Before we begin, please make yourself comfortable. Ideally, somewhere with a fancy drink that's just expensive enough to make you question your financial priorities, but not so expensive that it arrives accompanied by a lecture about volcanic soil and the emotional well-being of the beans. Right then, today we're talking about something many businesses still underestimate.
Customer experience.
Or, as it's increasingly becoming known, your most effective advertising campaign.
Episode 14. Customer experience is the new advertising, or
Why your customers have become your marketing department.
Let's begin with something that would have sounded almost ridiculous 20 years ago. Your biggest marketing budget may not actually be your marketing budget. It might be your customer service team, or your receptionist, or the engineer who turns up on time, or the person who answers the phone after 3 rings instead of treating it like that unexploded bomb that everybody is hoping someone else will deal with. Because somewhere along the way, something rather important changed. Advertising stopped being the final word. It became the opening statement. There was a time when advertising was wonderfully straightforward. You bought space in a newspaper, you produced a TV advert featuring someone smiling at inappropriate moments, you wrote a catchy slogan, you announced to the world how brilliant your company was, and, by and large, people accepted it. Not because every advert was true, but because there weren't many alternative ways to verify the claims. If a company said it offered exceptional customer service, well, you generally had to take its word for it. Today, not so much. Now, before you've even visited a business, you can read hundreds of reviews, watch videos, browse photographs, read comments from complete strangers, compare prices, compare experiences, compare whether someone called Dave from Doncaster thought the cappuccino was a bit disappointing. Which means businesses have lost something that they once took for granted: control of the narrative. Imagine opening a restaurant called
probably the best restaurant in Britain.
You invest thousands in branding, you hire photographers, you create elegant menus, you commission adverts showing smiling couples laughing over artisan bread that nobody ever actually eats. Everything looks magnificent. Then someone leaves a review that simply says,
The chips were cold.
That's it. No essay, no dramatic language, just 4 words. Suddenly, your beautifully crafted marketing campaign finds itself in an argument with a sentence shorter than most text messages. And rather awkwardly, the chips usually win. This is modern marketing. Consumers don't distrust advertising because advertising is inherently dishonest. They distrust it because they know it represents one side of the conversation. It's rather like asking someone to describe themselves on a first date.
I'm funny.
I'm reliable. I'm a great listener.
Perhaps, but we'd quite like to hear from somebody who's actually met you. And that's precisely what's changed. Customers have become that somebody. Every review, every recommendation, every conversation, every photograph, every LinkedIn post, every casual comment beginning with,
You know who were surprisingly good?
all of these carry extraordinary weight. Research has consistently shown that people place far more trust in recommendations from other customers than they do in advertising created by the business itself. Which makes perfect sense. After all, customers don't usually benefit from recommending a company. Well, at least not financially, emotionally perhaps. Especially if they discovered somewhere that makes excellent cake. And this is why customer experience has become such a powerful marketing tool. Advertising creates expectations. Customer experience confirms whether those expectations were justified. Think about it. Have you ever chosen a hotel because of the advert? Perhaps. Have you ever chosen one because 50 people independently said,
The staff were incredible.
Almost certainly. Because people just don't buy products anymore, they buy confidence. Confidence that what they've been promised is actually what they'll receive.
There is an interesting phenomenon where businesses spend £50,000 producing a glossy promotional video explaining how customer-focused they are before placing callers into a telephone queue long enough to complete a university degree.
Your call is important to us.
If that's true, why am I celebrating my birthday while listening to this piano music? Eventually, someone answers.
Thank you for your patience.
I wasn't patient. I was trapped. There's a subtle but important difference.
And this illustrates the central point beautifully. Marketing is no longer just what you say, it's what people experience. Every advert is in effect a promise. Customer experience is where that promise is tested. And today, reality has become remarkably good at writing reviews, which means the smartest businesses are beginning to realise something profoundly simple. Perhaps the most persuasive advert they could ever create isn't an advert at all. It's giving people an experience so good they can't wait to tell somebody else about it.
Part 2. Every customer has a microphone.
Now, one of the biggest challenges in marketing over the last 20 years has absolutely nothing to do with artificial intelligence, or social media, or search engine optimization, or whatever acronym the marketing industry is particularly excited about this week. The biggest change is much simpler. Every customer now has a microphone. There was a time when a customer had a bad experience and told their spouse, a friend, possibly even the neighbours. If they were particularly upset, they might mention it to someone in the queue in the post office.
Cashier number 5, please.
The damage was relatively contained. Annoying, but geographically limited. Today they can tell Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit, Trustpilot, TripAdvisor, WhatsApp groups, and approximately 300 people they've never met who somehow still care very deeply about whether your coffee arrived lukewarm. It's quite an achievement when you think about it. We've successfully turned everyone into a broadcaster without having to raise a finger. There was a time when becoming famous required extraordinary talent, or inventing something, or climbing Everest. Now, you can become internationally recognised because someone filmed you arguing with a self-service checkout.
Unexpected item in the bagging area.
Buddy machine.
Progress is a curious thing. And this changes the entire relationship between businesses and customers, because every interaction now has the potential to become content. That email your customer service team sends, content. The way your receptionist answers the telephone, content. The engineer who arrives 20 minutes early and puts on overshoes before walking into someone's house, content. The invoice that actually makes sense. Believe it or not, also content. Not because you're publishing it, but because your customers might. Think about the last time you had outstanding service. There's a reasonable chance you told someone. Maybe not immediately, maybe not dramatically, but you mentioned it. Likewise, think about the last truly dreadful customer experience. I suspect you can remember it all in astonishing detail. The company, the conversation, the expression on the employee's face, the moment someone said,
There's nothing I can do.
Which, translated into plain English, usually means, there's nothing I can be bothered doing. Human beings are remarkably good at remembering emotional experiences, especially the negative ones. It's an evolutionary survival mechanism. If your ancestors remembered where the dangerous tiger lived, well, they tended to live slightly longer. Unfortunately, our brains now apply the same survival instincts to broadband providers. Have you noticed how rarely people tell stories about things working exactly as expected? Nobody rushes into work on a Monday morning saying,
You'll never guess what happened. My internet connection functioned perfectly all weekend.
Nobody applauds when a train leaves on time. Nobody throws a street party because the electricity continued being available. Normal does not create stories. Remarkable does. Which is why customer experience matters so much. Every business is creating stories. The only question is, are they the stories customers want to tell? Because extraordinary service travels. So does dreadful service. Average service, well, it simply disappears into history. This is where many organisations make a subtle mistake. They think marketing is the responsibility of the marketing department. It isn't. Marketing certainly creates awareness, Marketing, well, shapes messaging. Marketing builds visibility. But the customer experience, well, that belongs to everybody. The person answering the phone, the warehouse team, the finance team, the delivery driver, the receptionist, the engineer, the salesperson, even the person who writes the automated email saying,
Thank you for contacting us.
every interaction quietly teaches customers what your business is really like, and those lessons spread surprisingly quickly. Imagine spending £100,000 on an advertising campaign promising
Exceptional customer care.
a customer calls. They're on hold for 42 minutes. Eventually, someone answers, sounding as though you've interrupted the most important sigh of their day. Congratulations. You've just spent 6 figures creating expectations and 30 seconds destroying them. Marketing can only open the door. Customer experience decides on whether anybody walks through it again. There's a curious phrase businesses often use. We exceeded customer expectations. Which sounds impressive. Until you realise one of the easiest ways to exceed expectations is to answer the phone before people lose the will to live. The bar isn't always as high as we'd like to imagine, and perhaps that's the opportunity. Because in a world where customers can instantly share every experience, being consistently helpful has become a genuine competitive advantage. Not because it's revolutionary, but because surprisingly often it's memorable. The businesses that understand this stop thinking of customer experience as an operational issue. They start seeing it for what it really is. One of the most powerful forms of marketing they'll ever invest in. Because today, every customer has a microphone. The only thing you don't get to choose is what they say into it.
Part 3. The little things people remember.
Now, here's something that has fascinated me for years. Businesses often assume customers remember, well, the big things, the expensive things, the things discussed in strategy meetings with names like
Project Elevate.
or,
Customer Experience Transformation Phase 2.
which always sounds as though somebody has accidentally launched a space program. In reality, customers rarely remember any of that. They remember moments, not the £200,000 website redevelopment, the receptionist who greeted them by name, not the award-winning advertising campaign, the engineer who took 5 minutes to explain something without making them feel, well, foolish, not the expensive branding exercise, the email that arrived exactly when they needed reassurance. People remember moments because moments become stories and stories travel. Think about the last brilliant customer experience you had. I doubt your first thought was,
The typography was exceptional.
more likely it was something like,
You won't believe what happened.
and that's the point. Customers don't recommend branding exercises. They recommend, well, experiences. Now, this isn't to say branding doesn't matter. It absolutely does. Branding earns attention. Customer experience earns loyalty. Imagine visiting a luxury hotel. The website is breathtaking. The promotional content is exquisite. The advertising promises elegance, relaxation, and world-class hospitality. You arrive. The receptionist looks up, sighs, and says,
You're early.
technically only 2 words. Commercially, catastrophic. Because in that instant, months of carefully crafted marketing collide with one human interaction. And remarkably often, the human interaction wins. This is one of the great truths of marketing. The smallest moments often carry the greatest emotional weight. A return phone call, a prompt email, a genuine apology, remembering somebody's name, following up after a project is finished, doing something helpful that nobody expected. None of these cost very much, yet they generate extraordinary value. There's a lovely phrase in business, and I've used it often myself. Going the extra mile. It's surprisingly short. Sometimes the extra mile is literally 30 seconds. Holding a door, explaining something clearly, walking a customer to reception instead of pointing vaguely down a corridor while saying, "It's somewhere over there." We've all experienced that. Usually in hospitals. The remarkable thing is that customers rarely expect perfection. They understand mistakes happen, deliveries are delayed, systems fail, people occasionally have bad days. What customers remember is how businesses respond. A mistake handled brilliantly often creates more loyalty than a transaction where nothing went wrong at all. because recovering well demonstrates something advertising never can: character. It's rather like friendships. No one expects friends to be perfect, but they do expect them to care when something goes wrong. Businesses are remarkably similar, and this is why some companies inspire fierce loyalty despite occasionally making mistakes, while others lose customers despite technically doing everything, well, correctly. One made people feel valued, the other made people feel, well, processed, and customers can sense the difference almost immediately. There's an interesting experiment you can perform. Ask someone to describe the best company they've ever dealt with. Notice what happens. Almost nobody starts with the product. They don't say,
"Well, the technical specification exceeded ISO standards."
Instead, they say things like,
They really looked after us.
Nothing was too much trouble.
They remembered us.
They made everything easy.
they're describing feelings, not features, which is deeply inconvenient if you spent 6 months writing technical brochures, because businesses often compete on products, while customers choose based on experiences. The irony is that products become increasingly similar over time. Technology catches up, features are copied, prices fluctuate. Customer experience is much harder to imitate. You can copy a website, you can copy a pricing model, you can even copy someone's advertising campaign. It's much harder to copy a culture where everybody genuinely cares about the customers. That's not a campaign, that's a habit, and habits become reputations. This is where customer experience becomes something much bigger than customer service. It becomes marketing. Every small interaction says something about your business, whether you intended it to or not. The way the phone is answered, the speed of your reply, the tone of an email, the packaging, the follow-up, the invoice, the goodbye. Every one of those tiny moments quietly answers the same question. What are these people really like? And once customers know the answer, they'll tell other people. Not because you've asked them to, not because you've offered a referral incentive, but because remarkable experiences have always travelled by word of mouth. The technology has changed, the psychology hasn't. People still tell stories. The only difference is, today they can tell thousands of people before they've even left your car park.
Part 4. The customer journey isn't a flowchart.
Now, if you've ever attended a marketing workshop, and if you haven't, I'd like to congratulate you on what has almost certainly been a much more relaxing life. You'll probably have encountered something called the customer journey. It's usually presented as a beautifully designed flowchart, a work of geometric optimism. Everything progresses neatly left to right. Awareness, interest, consideration, decisions, purchase, loyalty, advocacy. Well, everybody smiles. The arrows all point in the correct direction. Nobody appears confused. It's magnificent. The only slight problem is customers have never actually seen the flowchart, and they seem remarkably reluctant to follow it. Real customer journeys don't look like railway timetables. They look more like someone trying to assemble flat-pack furniture after misplacing the instructions and deciding confidence alone will see them through. One customer discovers your business through Google. Another hears about you from a colleague. Someone else listens to your podcast for 6 months before visiting your website. Another accidentally finds one of your blog posts while trying to answer an entirely different question. A fifth has never heard of you until your van breaks down outside their office, which admittedly isn't a marketing strategy I'd recommend. Marketing people love drawing funnels. Customers, on the other hand, behave more like pinballs. They bounce, they disappear, they come back 6 months later, they read 3 blog posts, ignore your website completely, phone reception, ask an unrelated question, disappear again, and eventually they become your biggest client. Try drawing that on a PowerPoint slide. The truth is that buying decisions rarely happen in one neat sequence. They're messy. People get distracted. They forget. They become busy. Someone goes on holiday. Somebody changes jobs. Budgets get frozen. Children get stuck in treehouses. The dog eats something expensive. Life happens. Businesses often interpret this as marketing failure. Sometimes, though, it's just simply Tuesday. This is why patience matters so much, because your customer isn't living inside your sales pipeline. They're living inside their own life. And rather inconsiderately, your business is only one very small part of it. Think about the last major purchase you made. Perhaps a car, a kitchen, a holiday, maybe even choosing a new accountant. which admittedly is less exciting than a holiday but more tax efficient. So, did you follow a perfectly linear journey? Well, of course not. You probably Googled something, forgot about it, asked a friend, read a few reviews, became distracted by the kitchen drawer, and then came back 3 weeks later, eventually making the decision that you later described as,
It just felt right.
"It's extraordinary how many purchasing decisions eventually come down to, I liked them." Which is wonderfully inconvenient if you've just spent £80,000 developing a 12-stage customer acquisition model, because somewhere inside of all that beautifully engineered marketing strategy, Susan simply preferred the people who answered the phone cheerfully. And honestly, Susan has a point. This is why customer experience isn't something that begins after the sale. It begins the moment someone first encounters your business. Your website, your social media, your emails, the way someone answers the telephone, the speed of your reply, even your out-of-office message. They're all part of the journey. Not separate departments, not isolated interactions, one continuous experience. The difficulty is that businesses often optimize individual touchpoints without considering how they feel when stitched together. Imagine going to a restaurant where the welcome is wonderful, the starter is exceptional, the main course is excellent, the dessert never arrives. And after 45 minutes, someone casually mentions they'd forgotten you were still there. Which part do you think you'll remember? Exactly, the ending. Psychologists call this the peak end rule. People tend to judge experiences largely by their emotional high point and how they ended. Businesses accidentally prove this every day. A brilliant project can be overshadowed by a confusing invoice. An outstanding product can be undermined by poor after-sales support. A fantastic sales process can unravel because nobody returns a phone call. Conversely, a small mistake handled brilliantly often creates a stronger impression than if nothing had gone wrong in the first place. Because customers don't expect perfection. They expect to be treated like, human beings. And perhaps that's where the flowcharts become slightly misleading. Flowcharts describe processes. Customers experience emotions. Processes can be optimized. Emotions have to be earned. Which means the most important customer journey map you'll ever create isn't the one hanging on the meeting room wall. It's the one unfolding quietly inside your customer's head. Because they won't remember your funnel. They won't remember your CRM workflow. They won't remember whether marketing handed them over the sales at precisely the right moment. They remember one thing. How did these people make me feel? And if that answer is positive, they'll probably come back. More importantly, they'll probably bring someone else with them.
Part 5. Good experiences travel.
Here's something remarkable. Businesses spend an extraordinary amount of money trying to persuade people to talk about them. Marketing campaigns, advertising, public relations, social media, influencer partnerships, events, competitions, the occasional giant inflatable duck, for reasons nobody has adequately explained. I'm looking at you, Glasgow. And yet, the most powerful conversations usually begin without the marketing department knowing anything about them. Because people tell stories, not stats. Nobody has ever recommended a business because of an average response time. They recommend experiences.
You'll never guess what happened.
That's how word of mouth has always worked. The technology has changed, human nature hasn't. There is an interesting challenge you can set yourself. Try remembering the last 10 advertisements you saw yesterday. Difficult, isn't it? Now try remembering the last time somebody went above and beyond to help you. That's much easier. One disappeared before you finish your morning coffee, the other may stay with you for years. This is why customer experience has become such an extraordinary marketing tool. It creates stories that advertising simply cannot. Now, businesses often ask me,
How do we get people talking about us?
which is an understandable question, but it's usually the wrong one. Better question is, what are we doing that's worth talking about? Because customers rarely discuss businesses that simply meet expectations. Nobody phones a friend and says,
You won't believe this. The supermarket had milk.
that's not remarkable. That's Tuesday. Remarkable things are, rather helpfully, things people choose to remark upon. And that's where the word actually comes from. Somewhere, right now, a marketing department is trying to engineer
Viral content.
Meanwhile, a local cafe owner quietly notices that an elderly customer always sits alone on Thursday mornings. One week they simply join him for 10 minutes and have a chat. No cameras, no hashtags, no campaign. A customer sees it, tells someone else, posts about it online. Thousands of people read the story. The cafe owner never intended to create marketing. They simply behaved like a decent human being. Marketing departments find this quite irritating, mostly because kindness has an astonishing high return on investment and absolutely refuses to fit neatly into quarterly reporting software. This is why authenticity matters. People have become remarkably good at spotting the difference between something designed to generate publicity and something that happened because someone genuinely cared. One gets applauded, the other gets remembered, and remembered is far more valuable. Think about companies like John Lewis or Ritz-Carlton or your favourite local independent business. People don't just remember what they bought, they remember how they were treated. That's what they recommend, not the product, the experience surrounding the product. Because products become obsolete, technology evolves, competitors catch up, but a reputation for making people feel valued, that takes years to build and minutes to lose. Which is why every interaction matters. The invoice, the follow-up email, the way complaints are handled, the speed of reply, the willingness to admit a mistake. Every one of these moments is quietly answering the question, would I recommend these people? And recommendation has become one of the most valuable currencies in business. Advertising can introduce you, SEO can help people find you, social media can make people aware of you. But a recommendation that arrives wrapped inside a genuine story from someone you trust is extraordinarily difficult to compete with, because stories carry something advertising never fully can: credibility. They don't feel like persuasion, they feel like advice, and perhaps that's why customer experience has become the new advertising. Not because advertising has stopped working, far from it, but because the most persuasive message your business can ever send isn't the one you write, it's the one your customers tell on your behalf.
Part 6. Experience is your brand.
Now we arrive at something that I think is one of the biggest misconceptions in modern marketing. Ask someone to describe a brand and they'll usually begin talking about logos, colours, fonts, websites, advertising campaigns, maybe even the shade of blue used in the annual report. Which is understandable. Those are the things we can see. They're tangible, they're designed, they're discussed in meetings with mood boards and colour palettes, but they aren't your brand. They're your introduction. Your brand is what people believe about your business after they've experienced it. And that's a very different thing. Logos introduce you. Customer experience defines you. Everything else is simply the journey between those two moments. Think about it. Imagine two businesses. Both have beautiful websites, professional photography, excellent branding, compelling copy, strong advertising. Business number one answers the phone immediately, replies to emails the same day, keeps customers informed, turns up when it says it will, and makes everything feel easy. Business number two has exactly the same logo. Everything else is chaos. The delivery is late, no one calls back, the invoice is confusing, the customer has to explain the problem 3 separate times to 3 different people. Eventually someone says,
That's not my department.
technically true. Commercially devastating. Because customers don't separate marketing from operations. Businesses do. Customers simply experience, the business.
There is a curious phenomenon that occurs in large organizations. Marketing spends 6 months carefully crafting a message around simplicity. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the building, someone has designed a contact form requiring 17 mandatory fields, 2 security questions, a CAPTCHA involving traffic lights and bicycles, and the approximate maiden name of your first goldfish. The customer doesn't know these departments have never met. They simply conclude, these people said they were easy to deal with. They are not, and that's your brand, not the campaign, the contradiction. This is why branding has become so much more than communication. Years ago, businesses could afford a gap between what they promised and what they delivered. Today, customers expose that gap almost immediately. They leave reviews, share screenshots, tell colleagues, post on social media, record videos. The distance between expectation and reality has become public, which means authenticity is no longer a marketing trend. It's a commercial necessity. You can no longer advertise your way around poor customer experience. Eventually, the experience catches up with the message.
Imagine introducing yourself at every dinner party by saying, "I'm incredibly reliable," then arriving 45 minutes late for every dinner. Eventually, people stop listening to the introduction. They start believing the behaviour. Businesses are exactly the same. This is why companies with relatively modest marketing budgets often outperform organisations spending millions on advertising. Not because they shout louder, because they deliver consistently. Every interaction quietly reinforces the same message. We care. We do what we say. We'll look after you. And after enough experiences, customers stop needing to see your advertising. They already know who you are. That's the point where something rather wonderful happens. Your brand stops being something you communicate. It becomes something other people communicate for you. A recommendation over coffee, a LinkedIn comment, a conversation at a networking event, a review, a referral, none of which require a marketing budget. Only a consistently good experience. This is why I often tell clients that the most important people protecting the brand may never work in the marketing department. They're the people answering the phones, driving the vans, managing the projects, packing the orders, sending the invoices, greeting customers at reception. Every one of them is a brand ambassador, whether the job title says so or not. Perhaps that's one of the most important shifts in modern marketing. The marketing department no longer owns the brand. They influence it, shape it, communicate it, but every employee experiences it. Every customer judges it. Which brings us back to Janet in accounts. She's never asked to work in marketing, yet she probably generated more referrals than any advertising campaign ever did. Because customers rarely care whose department delivered the experience. They simply remember who made their day easier. Which means your brand isn't hanging on the wall in reception. It isn't stored in a design manual. It isn't stored inside your logo files. Your brand exists in thousands of tiny moments repeated every single day. And that's wonderfully encouraging. Because while your competitors can copy your products, your prices, your website, or advertising, it's extraordinarily difficult to copy a business where every customer consistently walks away thinking, those people genuinely cared. And in the long run, that may be the strongest brand advantage any business can ever build.
Part 7. The future of marketing looks remarkably human.
So is customer experience really the new advertising? I think it's becoming something even more important. It's becoming the proof. Marketing creates awareness. Customer experience creates believers. But customer experience answers the only question that really matters. Were they as good as they said they were? Because if the answer is yes, customers return. They recommend you, they defend you, they become advocates. And no advertising campaign in history has ever been more persuasive than one delighted customer saying,
"You should use these people. They're brilliant."
And perhaps that's the real lesson. Marketing doesn't end when someone becomes a customer. That's where the most important part begins. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Overthinker's Guide to Modern Marketing. Until next time, stay curious, keep questioning, and remember, every advert you create lasts for a few seconds. Every customer experience can last for years, because people rarely remember your slogan, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And if all else fails, be the business people enjoy talking about, for all the right reasons. Cheers!
The Overthinker's Guide to Modern Marketing is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, YouTube, and most places where people go to think slightly more deeply while wondering whether they should probably reply to that customer email before designing another advertising campaign.